Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that helps to get my channel promoted, and I really do appreciate that a lot. I also love it when people leave comments, so if you have a suggestion for a video, a question about this one, if you want to tell me how you do things, or if you just want to say hi, those are all great. So feel free to do that. I wanted to do something mixed metal today, and I wanted to use an opal, and I wanted to do something sort of modern and sleek. So I'm going to try to do something with that idea in mind. I have drawn up an idea which I think will be cool, and we'll see how it turns out. I hope it turns out. It's a pretty little opal, and I think it'll make for a cool, funky ring. So we'll see. Before we do that, though, I wanted to thank some groups of people. First off is my patrons, and they are a great group of people, and I so appreciate their support, both financially, and also appreciate the great community that they've built over there with a lot of talented people and a lot of very nice people. So I have some new ones to add to the list. I have 5 here. I think I forgot to mention Zuki signed up the other day, and Roxanne B. I wanted to thank both of those. But then I have 3 new ones. Megan R., Matthew H., and Janelle B. Thank you all so much for signing up. I really appreciate your support, and I hope that you find everybody over there as nice as I have. I think you will. The other group of people is my YouTube channel and my YouTube followers. We are now up to 19,500. That's amazing. Thank you for that. And thank you for all of the nice comments. It really warms my heart when I hear that you're getting something good out of this. So thanks for that. Thanks for the super thanks and the buy me a coffees. Those really help. Silver's pretty expensive right now, so I do appreciate that a lot. All right, well, let's get started on this project and see how it turns out. This is one of my design idea sketchbooks that you can get on the merch store. This particular variety has a convenient conversion chart on the back. It goes from fractions of an inch to inches in decimals, and then to millimeters. And I use mostly the metric system anymore, so this helps me out a lot, and I think it's a valuable tool to have at hand, so get yourself one of those. There's some other ones too that have some different charts on the back. What I like about these things is it has a grid pattern in the background, and it allows me to kind of make better drawings because I'm not super good at keeping things very symmetrical when I freehand stuff. So this is what we're going to make today, and I don't know who we is. I'm going to make it. So I picked out a little opal. I was thinking about using this one. I got these 2 Ethiopian opals, but I thought this one's really pretty red, and in real life looks good, but as far as for a thumbnail and stuff, I think it might not look very good. It's hard to capture what an opal looks like. This one is a more typical Ethiopian opal. It's really kind of a gel-like one with lots of color inside of it. So I'm going to use that one. It's also a little bit smaller, which is a little bit more convenient for what I'm doing here. So I'm going to have a bezel mounted up there. And I'm going to make this band out of 18 gauge sheet, 2 pieces of it. You can see the side view down here. And we're going to cut a hole in it. It's going to be slightly ovate because I want to be able to see this brass rod that's going to be the spacer in there from the side. And so I want this to be big enough to have a finger comfortably through there, but also still be able to see a little bit of that. These other 2 are going to be little smaller brass rods that go through there, and we'll try and see if we can get those all positioned nicely. That depends on how evenly I can drill my holes, so that's always a challenge for me. But we'll do our best and see what we can come up with. I was just thinking about this because I was thinking drilling it when it's already like this, it's going to be hard to get that drill to go straight across and through both at just the right angle and everything. So I think I may drill them while they're like taped together. I've already cut the 2 pieces of silver here. We're going to have them taped together to saw this out anyway. And so if we drill them this way at a smaller drill bit, and then solder these all together, and then once they're in place, then widen those holes with a little bit wider drill bit. We can get that angle in there nicely, I think, so it'll straighten out the fact that it's not a perfectly straight hole, because when you do this like that, it's going to be pointing more that way and that way, if that makes any sense. If not, that's okay too. I had to figure out a way to round these ends nicely, because I want them to be kind of smooth and lozenge shaped. I seem to use the word lozenge a lot. I'm not sure why that is. So what I'm going to do is I cut myself a piece of this brass rod here, and this was about a little more than 4.5 millimeters wide, or 0.188 inches, I think is what it measured on my little calipers. So I cut off a piece about the right length, and what I'll do is I'm going to chuck it into my portable drill, and we'll use a file, and we can get a pretty good rounded end on it. I did some experimenting with that on a smaller piece here, and that smoothed it out pretty nicely, especially after you take a little sandpaper to it at the end. So that'll give us a pretty symmetrical little rounded bar, and everything else is just kind of standard stuff. I think we're going to make a little bezel for this, and we'll start with that. I'm going to use 28 gauge bezels, because opals are a little delicate. I want to do something that's easy to bend. I don't want to slip and scratch it when I'm applying pressure to it. And for the bottom, I'll use 26 gauge sheet, which is 0.41 millimeters. 28 gauge is 0.33? Yeah, 0.33. So I think that's everything. Let's start by making a bezel. I'm using a really tall bezel because that's what I keep around, and I will probably cut this much shorter. So I may just file it shorter at the end. This is sort of a rounded square. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but I think it's close enough to where it's going to be hard to tell that it's not. So I guess we'll see. Make sure that's tight. I'm going to make a little extra space by scratching it slightly beyond where they meet, so I have a little bit of room to file it flat. I'm going to set this off to the side so I don't inadvertently damage it, as I have been known to do. At least it's been a while since I've caught this on fire. I did once on this one. You kind of get focused on what you're doing sometimes and just get distracted. Safety first, you know. I'm going to make this into kind of an angular shape. Makes it a little bit easier for me to solder. I know everybody doesn't do this, and that's okay. Everybody finds their own way to do stuff. So you should pick what works best for you. I have a follower who oftentimes wants to know, who's also actually a very talented jewelry maker. And she always has good advice and things. And she oftentimes asks me, you know, I'm curious as to why you do that. And the other day she was asking, why do I always say, I'm just going to have some extra solder in case it doesn't work, you know? So she brings up the question, why do you do things? And sometimes I don't know the answer to that until I think about it. And sometimes there's no reason I do it other than I've just always done it that way. And there may be a better way to do it. So I really like that she does that, because it helps me to examine my process and get better at it. So one of the things I have a tendency to do is get stuck in a pattern of doing something that may or may not be the best practice. So you got to always keep learning. So as far as what I use here, so if you haven't been to my channel before, I use hard silver sheet solder generally. I use a liquid flux that I dribble on with a dropper bottle. My torch is a Silversmith model. It's an acetylene air torch, and I really like this model. It pulls in atmospheric air through there to mix with the acetylene, so it's just got one tank. And it's a hot torch, but it's not as hot as oxyacetylene, which is good because you don't really need that much heat for silver. So, but it's much hotter than a propane torch in general. I tell students that when I have taught in-person classes in the past, I haven't been doing that lately because I'm too busy. Lost my train of thought while I was looking for a tool. Oh, I remember what I was saying. I always tell beginner students who I usually have use propane torches that once they try using an acetylene air torch, they'll never ever want to use a propane torch again. So, and most times, once they get used to the acetylene torch, they are in full agreement with me. So, I'm going to do a little bit of shaping. I always forget to talk about this, but I mentioned the Patron back at the beginning, and there's multiple tiers of membership. The lowest being $5 a month, which will get you mostly just helps me out and gets you my videos without any kind of advertising. So other than me advertising my stuff. But you don't have to listen to whatever advertisements they play on YouTube, and that's nice. If you watch my videos a lot, I bet that would be worthwhile. And then there's some other tiers that have more perks, like live streams, and I do a Patreon video almost every week, so. There's quite a bit of content on there that you can't get on YouTube too, if you're interested. I had a live stream actually last night, and I had one of my Australian patrons was there, which is always nice to talk to her. I had someone from Oklahoma, someone from Nebraska, someone from Texas, I believe. It was nice. I meet so many nice people through there. We got to chit-chat about jewelry and other stuff. I think that's pretty good. With opals, sometimes same way with like moonstones and labradorites, I will oftentimes look at them both without something behind them, and then with a piece of silver behind it to see which way looks better, because some stones will look better one way and some will look better the other way. So this one to me looked a little bit more colorful with some silver behind it, so I'm going to make a closed back bezel for it. And so let's find some 26 gauge sheet. Alright, let's solder this bottom on here. Like I said, I'm probably going to file that down quite a bit. If you're new to this, you're always welcome to ask questions if you don't know what's happening here. I mostly explain stuff, but some of the things that I do in every video I don't always do a complete description of what's going on. So if you don't know, ask. And if you want to know more about it, I can usually direct you to a video that will tell you more about it. Okay. Cool that off, and we'll trim off the excess. Well, something else a lot of people ask me is what size tip I'm using. I'm using a number 1, which I use for pretty much everything, unless I'm melting a bunch of silver. They also asked me about these too. These are Fisker's craft shears. They're pretty widely available and pretty inexpensive. The way I use them, though, wears them out pretty quickly. Those cut well enough to where their convenience over sawing justifies the expense of having to buy a new pair once in a while. I think. Okay, so we got that kind of cleaned up. Let's set that over here for now. And I think, should we make this next? Round this out? Let me grab my portable drill and an old file. I'm going to chuck this right in, just like that. If you need to. Brace it against the thread. Let's grab some sandpaper. This is 220. I kind of like the brushed finish on it from the sandpaper too. I might, give it a once over once more before we solder it on there. But yeah, so I'm going to go off camera for a minute and do that. Okay, so I went ahead and taped these two pieces of 18 gauge together, and then I glued on a little template for the part that I need to cut out here of these two pieces of sheet, and I drilled smaller holes up there. Hopefully I got them pretty straight. I guess we'll find out. Now let's do some sawing, I guess. I put a number 1 on here because it's pretty thick when you're doing two pieces of 18 gauge. So. Okay, I'm going to do a little smoothing out, and then I'm going to retape a little bit, and then I think I'll use a Dremel with an abrasive white wheel on the inside of this to smooth that all out. So I'll be right back. To get this lined up, I taped the outside, Dremeled the inside until it was relatively regular, taped the inside, filed the outside, kind of went back and forth, but I'll kind of pick this off of here. See if I can do it without stabbing myself. This might be kind of fun if you did it with a texture too. I'm going to try and do it kind of like that. I feel like maybe we ought to have something to butt this up against. And so let's find a T-pin or two. That way I think we can get it pretty close. That looks good to me. I'm going to cut some solder and pick solder it down here. This I'm not going to solder in quite yet, but soon. So let me find my solder. Solder for you people across the Atlantic Ocean and other places. One trick with stuff like this is the more mass you add to things, the longer it takes to get it up to the soldering temperature. And if you really want the solder to adhere to both pieces you're trying to solder together, they both need to reach that temperature. And this brass thing is going to soak up a lot of heat too. Alright, I'm going to try and get some down here. It's going to be easier to get the top piece hotter because it's exposed to the flame more. This looks like these holes I drilled are about 16 gauge, so I'm going to stick some, if it'll fit through there. Not quite. Maybe some 18 gauge. Okay, so I'm going to try and pick a little solder on either end where it's easy to polish off, and we'll see if it sticks. Sometimes soldering brass and silver together can be a little tricky. So, I nudged it a little bit. Alright, let's see where we're at now here. That looks pretty straight that way. That looks reasonably straight that way. Looks like I was able to get those on there without soldering those pins in. So that's not bad. I'm going to, just like before, now that it's soldered together, these aren't perfectly symmetrical there, so I'm going to file this one a little bit more that way. Try and get them as close as I can. So I found a drill bit that's just about the right size. So I'm going to start off by drilling straight down like this, and then go try and line it up with the other one and drill straight through, and I should have a nice clean hole then. Okay, I've got some little brass rods rounded on the ends for the little pins going this way. So I'm going to solder them in on the outside edge because it'll be easier to clean up out there. And I'm just going to pick them just like I did before. This is turning out pretty good. I don't know if I have everything perfectly symmetrical, but it's close. So not only do we have all of the mass of everything on here now, we also have this third hand which is going to eat up a lot of heat as it transmits some of that heat along there. So we need to use quite a bit of heat here. That's pretty fun so far. I think let's just sweat a little bit of solder onto the back of this. I'm going to call that good. These corners up here I'm going to round as well after I pickle it, and then we'll get everything lined up and polished up, and then we'll see how it looks. Set that stone. Got things mostly polished up. There's a few issues that I should address here. One, I didn't quite get this. When I was polishing, the edge of it started to wear away on the inside a little bit, so I got a little bit of an irregularity there, which I don't love, but there's not much I can do about it at this stage. The other thing is getting in underneath there to clean it up a little bit more than I have is difficult. I've used some sandpaper and stuff to get in there a little bit, and that helps some, but it's not perfect. But I think when we put that in there, that's going to turn into a stunning little piece. So I do this a little differently than some people do. I use my chain nose pliers, the flat part here as a bezel pusher, and the rounded outer part here as a burnisher. So I'm going to start by just kind of gently kind of square this up a little bit so it kind of looks that way. That's really pretty stone. I'm glad I went with that one. I don't think the red one would have shown up quite as brilliantly as that does. And I think the brass kind of probably brings out some of the golden colors in this one, because it definitely, a lot of Ethiopian opal has kind of that goldish color as as part of its jelly-like nature. I'm going to call that good, and then we'll get some pictures at the end. And I kind of like that one. So, is it perfect? No. Is it pretty good? Yeah, I think so. So, I'm curious what kind of strategies some of you use when you're getting down below stones or in tight places like that to clean it up. That's always been an issue with me, and so sometimes it's just kind of one of those things I'm constantly trying to find a good solution to, and I never really have. So, all right, well, I'll get some better pictures. Okay, well, that was the modern opal ring with some brass components to it. I hope you enjoyed that. Not sure what we're going to call that yet, but we'll come up with something. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button before you go. I really appreciate that. And I'd also love it if you'd go over and hit my main channel page. There's 460-ish videos now, I think. So there's a ton of content over there. I've been making 3 videos a week for about 3 years. So there's quite a library of stuff there, and there's almost certainly something interesting or useful for you over there. So check it out, watch a few videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit the video description down below. There's information about my Patreon if you want to get rid of the ads, or if you want to do one of the higher tiers and get some extra content. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those design idea books. Those are great for keeping track of your ideas and having a record of what you've made. There's also a link to my ebook for 2024, and that's my latest collection of tutorial guides. It covers everything I did in 2024, and it's a whole lot of information in one space and a great way to support my channel. So check that out and maybe get yourself one. All right, well, thank you for watching. Take care. Happy silversmithing.